Hello, Jim 12's here again. Today is Friday the 25th of August 2023 and I'm in a half cave. I think you call this a half cave. In the side of the cliff, and I'm just south of Springwood in the Blue Mountains, and this point that I'm sitting on is basically the eastern side of Lawson's lookout. Now, some of the guidebooks said give that a miss. Well, I think it's worth a view. This is Lawson's lookout. One of the guidebooks suggested that you give it a miss, but I'm glad I came. It's such a glorious spot. So, my topic today I would like to discuss is answering the question, what is reality? Now, 3 years ago, I don't think I would have ever questioned what is reality. To me, the world around me, the environment, the weather, the climate, the economy, the politics, the geography, the sociology, the demography, were all pretty solid and real. History was real and it was being played out at my feet, as it were. But then 3 years ago, a lot of that changed, and the sun is still shining and the birds are still singing, and you might hear a few today, and the woods are still glorious, and it's great to get out into the nature, the natural landscape. So today I'd like to discuss a few things. Here goes. First one that comes to mind is science. Now, when I was growing up, science was the exploration of the unknown. Those of you old enough remember the 60s and the exploration of the moon. It was the great unknown, and there were stories of explorers who were going to parts of the earth that had never been explored before, or depths of the ocean that had never been plumbed. But now, think about it, whenever you hear the term science, it's usually in the context of somebody telling you what the truth is. The facts have been decided. The consensus says, yeah, this. Therefore, you need to be told what the science says. And don't be a Luddite and put your head in the sand. Science is telling you the truth. That's not the science that I grew up with. Let's look at government. Does your government govern? I would challenge you to say no, it doesn't. In fact, corporations don't govern either. They actually dictate. They tell you what you can have and what you can't have, and where you can go and when you can go. The corporations, I think, are in the ear of government, and basically government says, yes sir, 3 bags full, because we need your revenue. One of the key tipping points for me was when I realized that not just in Australia but across the Western world, oppositions became non-existent, and the party in power suddenly found themselves in a coalition with the opposition, and as if we've voted for nothing. Those who voted for the government and those who voted for the opposition, well, blow it, you're now all part of the same. And that's still being played out in recent times, with crazy things happening in the Victorian Parliament, where the opposition are really just being the donkey for the ruling Labour Party. They're just doing their bidding. Let me talk about climate disasters. To me, ideology is running everything now when it comes to climate. Think of the Mediterranean fires, particularly in Greece a month or so ago. That was not exceptional, but unfortunately, I know from the evidence that I believe that the BBC have fabricated the data to make it look as if it was exceptional fires. I remember on my honeymoon in 1976 in the south of France, you couldn't see the sky for black smoke. The landscape was burning from top to bottom, and yet nobody was, what's the word? Nobody was calling it doomsday and the end of the world as we know it. They were getting on, flying their planes into the Mediterranean, picking up seawater and dumping it on the fires as fast as they could. And anybody who had property near the fires just got out of the way. It wasn't a fearful thing. It was terrible. It was devastating, sure, but not one to consider the end of the world. And then I want to talk about the floods in China a month or so ago. I heard a lovely report that explained why the floods in China were so devastating this year, 2023. Because for 25 years, the authorities have stopped dredging the rivers. They've kept on building up the levees. Therefore, the level of the rivers was higher than the plain, and all it took was for a levee to break, and whoosh, vast areas of China, the lowlands, were flooded, obviously. So if man hadn't interfered by building up the levees and not dredging the rivers, there wouldn't have been the devastating floods. So the floods in China were not part of climate change, climate disaster, as every media report that I can find, well, not everyone, most of them say it is. The Hawaiian fires of recent weeks, absolutely devastating. I hear stories of fire tenders going through the community with no sirens blaring for fear of waking people up. The fire alarms and the sirens that go off regularly and tested regularly didn't. There was a massive wind known to be coming, and it would blow the fire towards the properties. It's a mystery. It's a mystery. There's an awful lot about the Hawaiian fires that I'm sure we don't know. And then recently, this week, I think, the predictions that Australia's summer is going to be the scorcher. It's only the swing of the El Nino and La Nina just changing again. And if the authorities burn the undergrowth and do control fires, we'll be fine. Anyway, I go on about climate, I'm sorry. Next heading, misinformation, disinformation and hate speech. Again, they're terms that I never heard of 3 years ago. And I want to add to this topic the whole idea that there are organizations designing us to self-censor ourselves so that the algorithms won't have to do it, and there won't be a Ministry of Truth who has to do it, but we as a society will self-censor ourselves so that we won't speak out of turn. We won't refer to things that are not appropriate. And notice I'm not going to use any examples now, because I'm giving you a pure example of self-censorship and aware that YouTube might be watching. A fear of thinking differently. Now, I know it's part of human nature to not want to be the odd one out, but when so many people are thinking the same, you have to wonder, is there another point of view? The fear of behaving differently. The whole concept of conforming and conformity to the norm. I personally am a rebel, as you may know, and I hate to conform, and almost on principle I will not do what everybody else does, but that's being very cheeky and tongue-in-cheek. My next heading about what is reality. The term conspiracy theory, conspiracy theories. I'm sure we've all noticed that they are used to silence anybody's view, however honestly it might be held, that contradicts the narrative that the mainstream are wanting to carry on. And I particularly find it irksome when the term conspiracy theory is used with a mocking tone. The term itself implies this is all wrong. You're an idiot for thinking such a stupid thing. Oh, you can't. You've got no evidence, surely. No, you can't. It's just, you're just spooking for the sake of it. And mockery. That's no way to run a society or to live in a healthy, robust society. Education. Now, I'm an educator, always will be. To me, education has become what to think and not how to think. And I really wish schools and education would get off on what and teach students how to think. That should be the only thing they teach. They should teach responsibility, personal responsibility, care for the environment, care for one another, care for yourself. That's the only thing you should really be doing. But no, schools are all about what to think. So that really is propaganda. Let's call it that, the P word. So let's take back our reality. I want to leave you with this thought, really. Let's keep our feet on the ground. Let's keep debating, questioning, using our critical thinking skills. Let's really have a laser light for anything that is consensus, propaganda, conformity. We have to take back our reality. And don't let's be pushed around and squeezed into the mould. Have a good day. Bye for now. This is Fairy Dell. I'm going to give you a bit of a tour of the track down into Fairy Dell. Pretty steep and plenty of steps, but very old. I think this track must have been here, I don't know, 100 years. People have been doing this. I'm not sure. I don't know my history too well, but this is certainly a beautiful spot and as silent as can be.